All right, welcome, guys. We'll wait a bit, see who's joining. But yeah, first time Substack Live. Hopefully, it doesn't crash out of nowhere on us. So I I have a canvas to present, and I realized that when you send a public link to it, it shows all the cursors in it. And
Oh
so I
yeah.
last minute, I'm like, that's gonna mess things up. I need to duplicate the canvas so that
hmm
it doesn't just clog everything as we're going through things.
Lose track of your own cursor.
Yeah. All right, we got good amount of people coming in. Nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Last minute too, at least on my end promoting.
Yeah, I've put out a couple of things, but Substack Live is also sort of new to me. I've run a couple of little experiments. Um, so I'm like, oh, I don't really know all the details of how it
Yeah.
works. So this is good.
Yeah. David, that's my fault. Uh when I was scheduling it, I haven't scheduled in Substack before. I feel like a boomer now because I scheduled for March 8th at the right time, but I didn't check. And then I'm like, I need to change this immediately to March 7th. And then it sent out the email at the wrong time. So yeah, we're here. Whatever. Yeah, there are Substack lives. Yeah, the email plus countdown is all on Substack's end. Okay, we're starting to stabilize. Jesse, I'm going to let you. Oh, okay. So I'll introduce a bit. So the reason we're here is because Jesse is taking on a very big challenge of hosting a live event, like in person event in Vancouver, Canada. And we've talked back and forth on it a bit. I've been super busy, so I wish I could help more with it. But he's been just taking it by the horns, and he has a series of 8 workshops. I'll let him explain that. Um, but the reason we're hosting this on my Substack is because I'm going to be a speaker there. So if you want to come see a bunch of cool creators and hear presentations from us, if you want to hear me be super awkward because I'm not a public speaker, and we'll just see how that goes. We'll go over that as well on the canvas. But Jesse, I'm going to open these so I have some lighting, and you introduce it, what it's about, and then we'll get into the content ecosystem, everything.
Yeah, excellent. Well, most of you know who Dan is, so it won't surprise you to know that yeah, his work has it kind of inspired some of my own online journey, getting a podcast going, starting a newsletter in the first place. And it kind of worked out that we got along on some similar topics and got in touch, spent some time together in person, and um, it's been cool, you know, seeing the idea development taking place. And I'm very much at the beginning of my, let's say, online creator journey. And so I've been getting to know a lot of others who are at different stages. And I have always found that anything I try to get into, um, it just starts to make a lot more sense when I'm surrounded by others who are, into that thing, whether it's, um, yeah, like something like woodworking or some hobby. And so I just sort of had this burning desire for there to be more in-person um, opportunities for people who are sort of in this stage of trying to figure out what am I creating online? Whether maybe you know something about what exactly you can offer people, but you don't have all of the knowledge and awareness of the particular skill sets that it's going to require. It can be a challenging journey. It can take a while to find clarity on what you're doing. So we're doing an event in Vancouver, and I've roped Dan into being willing to take the stage. And everyone, uh, everyone on this stage has had quite incredible success in their online work. But there's a variety of public speaking experience. Not everyone is actually uh, super experienced with public speaking. So it's kind of cool. It's this new experience, even for the people who are sort of putting the event on, so to say. And it's definitely a new experience for me. As Dan said, it's an ambitious project. Uh, but we've got Dan, we've got Brian Meyerhofer. Some of you might know about his work in somatic therapy, and he's had an incredible success writing threads on X. Um, and then we have Dan Goldfield. Uh, some of you should probably know who he is. He teaches about uh, a spiritual approach to business and, in essence, how to find inner peace and work from a place of peace instead of from a place where you're burning yourself out. Who else do we have? We've got Kimia Nora, whose expertise is on brain science and neuroplasticity, but also very successful writing on X. She's now on Substack as well. Uh, Everyone's joining the club. This is cool. Um,
What's up?
there's a whole
Bonesaw in
list.
here.
What's that?
Go follow. Bonesaw has incredible content.
Bonesaw. Hey, cool to see Bonesaw here.
Uh,
So
w-
yeah, an incredible
when
cat crew.
when is it, Jesse? Did you
June,
already?
this June, it's June 5th to 7th. So it's a 3-day long event. There will be virtual tickets. There are virtual tickets available if you're far from Vancouver and can't make the time for a trip. If you're not far enough to not be able to fly in, then get your passport ready, and tickets are available at thelivinginternet.com. And we have them on sale right now during this call and for a little bit after. So uh, we'll make sure the promo code is posted in more than one place, but it's the word transform in all capital letters, because this workshop is also part of a series that I've kind of curated. So next week we have Taylor Simmons, same time next Saturday. And you can also see the whole lineup of these workshops at thelivinginternet.com if you click on the community tab. So
Nice.
that's the gist, I think, of the important things for now.
Cool. Yeah. Follow Jesse. Jesse, say something in the chat because I'm sure he'll be the main one that he'll be promoting it a lot, and you can get all the links from his bio. Um, we posted the links a few times in the chat, but if you want to come in person, I think it'll be a really cool event. It's something very unique that you don't see too often, and it's just fun, and it's pretty affordable considering you'll have to fly if you're not in Vancouver. So yeah, get on that. Really think about it. Uh, it'll be fun. Okay, on to what we're here to talk about. The structure of this is we're going to go over a canvas, just like a little presentation, I guess. We're just going to walk through the actual content system. This is something that I've taught before. Obviously, I saw people mentioning 2 Hour Writer in the chat. This isn't as comprehensive, but I've done this on a few podcasts and people just seem to really like it. So I figured, why not repeat myself, right? Because the good stuff deserves to be repeated. And I feel like you can get a lot out of this. So we're going to go through that. And then if we have time at the end, I have stuff blocked off until 1:30, which is a little over an hour from now. We can do a Q&A depending on how quickly we run through this. I don't think it should take too long. But getting on to that, share screen, share. Ta-da! I'm very proud of this because the Eden canvas is now a thing, and it looks pretty good. But first off, we're just talking about, okay, how do you turn one newsletter into an entire content ecosystem? And what I mean by that is having like the newsletter as the high quality thing that you really put a lot of mind power towards each week. That's what I personally like to do. Um, a lot of what we're going to talk about has some tactics that a lot of people in the personal branding space or the creator space um, like to give out. But the thing that I like to focus on the most is just like one really high quality idea that I'm very excited about, very interested in talking about once a week. Just giving myself space to really think about that, to converse with AI about it, to listen to podcasts or read books about that topic or related topics. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of craving that, I guess, lifestyle, you could say, from content. Because when you get into the personal branding space, a big problem is that a lot of people are teaching incredible things, but you tend to get trapped in like the templates and the frameworks for your bio and how you should write a hook and all of these other things. While those are important, I think it's more important to just have something you're excited to write about every week or even every day if you get into short form content. So, again, this is the living internet, the live event. Go there. Uh, I'm excited about eating canvas. So, if you want to create something like this or you want to duplicate this, actually, I have a link for you. If you actually want this, okay, I pasted a link. Copy paste that into your browser if you just want to duplicate this entire thing because there are AI chats. Also, shout out Bonesaw. I have an inspiration piece from you in here. But there's AI chat nodes, there's prompts, etc. So if you duplicate this, you'll have the prompts in your workspace, or you can just copy paste them and put them into something else if you don't want to use Eden. But getting into what the actual content ecosystem is, we start with a newsletter. The newsletter is the almost the single thing that I'm focused on every single week. And now people, if you've been keeping up with my Substack, you know that I haven't posted in like a month, been very busy. But when things are going well, I post one newsletter a week. I've done that for, I want to say 5 years now. And it's just built a long running list of all of my thoughts, opinions, everything that I've written about is just there in public and people can go and read it and I can go back and reference it because when you write so much, you can't really hold all of that in your head, right? I feel like the act of writing is just a way to think through and solidify all of these ideas that you love to read about and think about. But as time goes on, you tend to not be able to hold those things in your mind. So it's good to have a place publicly that other people can explore the way that you've thought about things and that you can see how kind of your thinking has evolved over time. That's been one of the most valuable things for me is I can look back 3 years ago, look at my newsletters and be like, this is shit. Like I don't like this at all. I need to redo it. And I can see like digitally slash physically how much I've grown mentally, if that makes sense. So I love to focus on the newsletter. We can, if we have questions on why a newsletter, should I write a newsletter if I'm just starting out, we can handle those at the end. My advice is just write the freaking newsletter, write it on Substack. It's, it'll pay off, right? Especially if you get into the flow and practice it. But from that newsletter, what I do, and since this is one cornerstone piece of content that I think is very high quality, it's the thing I'm excited about. I don't write different content for something like YouTube or even a podcast. My YouTube channel and my podcast hosted on uh, Spotify creators, they're the same thing. And a lot of people, I wouldn't say they question this, but they think about it. Why would I post the same thing to multiple platforms? Shouldn't I write different content for those platforms? And in my opinion, that's just a one good way to burn out, I would say, or it's one good way to decrease the quality of ideas because you're not solely focused on putting your all into one. And that one deserves to be spread to all of the different platforms. So when I write a newsletter, that turns into like a soft YouTube outline. And the YouTube video gets posted to a podcast because most podcast platforms host videos now. And this now also turns into an X article. So I just copy paste it over to X and paste it there. And you expose yourself to new audiences that aren't on your email list or aren't on your Substack or don't watch YouTube or aren't going to see your video on YouTube. So for these, I do this once a week. And the way that I do this is maybe 5 days out of the week, I just write the newsletter. And that entails both research, ideation, and actually writing the thing. So one day out of the week, I'll just have like a note or a document or a page with all of the ideas that I want to put into the newsletter. I'll go on walks, I'll listen to podcasts, I'll watch YouTube videos, I'll remember books that had similar topics, I'll pull those up, and I'll just bring a bunch of great ideas into one outline that I can then string into some form of a newsletter. If you're wondering how to write a newsletter, we'll talk about that. Now, what happens here is the newsletter, this goes both ways. The newsletter can be used to inspire posts. So when I'm really feeling it and I'm just having a lot of ideas, I post about 3 times a day. When I'm kind of not really feeling it, because sometimes ideas don't just come to you, and I don't know, maybe you don't want to force out the ideas. 1 time a day is fine. Now, these posts can go on X, they can go on Threads, the Instagram app, or they can go on Substack. So if you want like a good starter stack, I would say Substack for newsletter and Substack for short form posts, since they allow that now. And then if you want to get into cross posting, then just some people may argue against this, but literally just copy paste them to each platform and see how they do. But it helps to focus solely on one. So if I were to say which one you could/should focus on, I'd just say Substack, because I feel like a lot of you are here for a reason, and Substack kind of reflects those values, right? They value the writing, they value being excited about an idea you want to share, quality of thought, so on and so forth. Now, from these posts, they don't all have to come from the newsletter. They can come from just when you're reading or when you're thinking. And those can be used to inspire the topic of the newsletter. So it's like just having this, being able to consistently produce both long form and short form in kind of a weekly cadence just creates this idea flow in your mind that just keeps them coming. And you don't really have to guess when you're really in the flow, you don't have to guess what to write next. Now, what I do, because for certain platforms, they reward certain behaviors, and it kind of just feels weird to post 3 like text-based posts on Instagram a day, and then you feel like you're missing out on reels or shorts or TikToks. So, what I like to do there is take the best out of the posts that I had for the week, and then either use that as like a starter or a hook for an Instagram reel or a YouTube short or TikTok. They're all kind of the same thing, same idea. You record one, you post all platforms. And then uh, for other posts, I like to turn them into like a carousel. So, an easy way to start with this without getting too complicated is just take the 3 best posts that you had on X, Threads, or Substack, turn them into some kind of a carousel. So, use Figma or Canva, or literally just screenshot the images like the tweets. That works too. Turn them into a carousel, post that 1 to 2 times a week. So, the more posts you have a day, the more, I guess, leverage you have when posting carousels, the more often you can post carousels and short form videos because you have more ideas to pull from. So it's kind of the content ecosystem, right? And how this fits into your day is just look at this little diagram and then think, okay, 5 days out of the week, I'm researching, brainstorming, writing the newsletter. For me, that happens like the first hour of the day, maybe. Then after that, you have the post writing. It's like, and if it feels weird to have like idea generation and writing as a structured part of your day or week, then think about it as what was that? There was this challenge from uh, Jay James Altucher, who's like he was a copywriter for Agora. He has a lot of fame in niche circles. Very smart guy, um, legendary, some would say. He had this practice of just writing down, like forcing yourself to write down 10 ideas a day. So if you want to think of post writing like that, you can approach it as, okay, I write the newsletter 1 hour in the morning. After that, I structure, I have like a 20-minute block it's just me and a blank page of paper. I'm remembering what I wrote in the newsletter. I'm remembering what I read, the podcasts I consumed, the just life experiences that I had. Reflect on your life at this point and just jot down 10 ideas that you think are important, impactful, exciting, and can solve a problem. When you see a really valuable idea that someone else can benefit from. And then from those 10 ideas, you can turn one, two, three of them into a post, and then you just post it. So the first hour is for newsletter. The second, let's say 30 minutes to an hour is for posts. And then I guess spread these out throughout the week. When I'm really in a structure, I have like, okay, Monday is carousel. Tuesday is reel or short or whatever, short video. And then Wednesday is a carousel. And then Thursday, Friday are shorts slash reels. And now you have this weekly flow that you can just continue going with. And the more you do it, the more the more of a world you build that people can explore. I personally, when I think of the word brand, it's really hard for me to kind of characterize what that is. I know that brand or personal brand or whatever is everything that you associate yourself with over time. So if you get on a podcast and the host of the podcast isn't like aligned with your values or who you are, and you don't really feel like you should be there, then that's going to damage your brand long term if you continue doing that thing. Right. So when you think of all the content you put out, that's like prime representation of what you associate with. It's the ideas that culminate in your readers' heads over time that kind of have them create this mental image of who you are when they think about you because they don't have access to your mind. It's the same thing you do when you meet a friend. All of your experiences impact your perception of that person. So when you're writing posts, how do you want to be perceived? What's the impact you want to leave on the world if you're thinking that big? Or just what are the ideas that you think are really helpful and really align with you that you want to share? And that's why people come back to your content is that feeling that they get and the quality of thinking and ideas that they're going to get from you each time that they see your profile picture pop up, making them stop and be like, oh, it's you. Okay, I'm going to read this. That's the gist of the content ecosystem. Now, where do ideas actually come from? We talked about this a bit, but the gist of where ideas should come from is everywhere. Whenever you just need to become an idea magnet. And this improves once you actually start producing. Once you start writing the newsletter, once you start writing the content consistently, um, pattern recognition starts to kick in. If you've experienced this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're working on, let's say, a project, the amount of ideas you have scale to fit the scope of the project. What I mean by that is when I was writing my book, that's a very large scope for a project. You have 15 to 20 chapters. You have so many ideas that you need to fill it with. But once you have the outline, once you have the structure, that's kind of sitting in the back of your head. And then when you read a book or you're scrolling on social media or you're just experiencing life, you're having dinner with a friend and having this weird conversation that you think doesn't apply to your book, but your brain notices one of the ideas and you really feel this urge to just write it down. That's kind of what I'm talking about. When you're in the flow, when you are serious about this content stuff or your life's work or whatever you want to call it, ideas just don't stop coming and you really need to write them down. That is arguably the most important thing that you need to do. If you want to enhance this process, because sometimes that's hard to do, physically make it a practice. You go on a walk and the challenge is to just write down an idea as fast as you can, no matter the quality of the idea. You're having a thought, you're listening to something, you're reflecting, you're doing whatever. Maybe you're not doing anything, you're just blank mind. That alone can be an idea, right? If you're thinking about how you're not thinking, turn that into an idea. Just write one down. But once you write one down, that starts to snowball. The ideas just start coming more and more, and you start thinking about that idea you wrote down, and you end up going down this like road of ideas, and you come back from a walk with a bunch of like a really messy set of ideas, but you know that they can be turned into something good, and you actually have something to start working with. So that's like the practice that I recommend. But sometimes it's not that predictable. Sometimes I don't have ideas for a long time. So what you have to do then, since unfortunately this is kind of a job, right? You can't only rely on inspiration or ideas to strike. You do kind of have to have a system, because if you're doing this as a job, then money is there, your survival's on the line. You kind of have to put stuff out. So that's the trade off for being able to do something like this. But the places I like to get ideas from are just top performing posts of my own. So if you've done this for long enough, you have a set of posts or ideas that you know are going to do well. And then you can take those and maybe you can repurpose them like almost directly if you want, if they're your own. But other than that, you just kind of start asking questions, right? So, and that's hard to explain, but you just sit with an idea and you question it with what, how, when, why, the typical way you ask questions. But for this post specifically, where it's like, go on more walks, walk for no reason, walk to solve a problem, whatever. It's like, what can I replace walks with? And then if I come up with uh, cook food more, then that completely changes the tweet, right? And while cooking food may not have anything to do with my brand, I think you get the point there. So, what about why? Why go on a walk? Because it helps me have ideas. Okay, now I have an idea from a completely different, like, it's not going to be anywhere close to this if I just focus on walking to get more ideas. I could turn it into a how to. So, how do you walk to get more ideas? And I could write a tweet about what I just told you guys of write down an idea as fast as you can and then watch it snowball. And that's not extremely valuable. It's not going to lead to the most sales ever, but it's a good idea, right? And you just need to practice getting those under your belt. And when it's time to sell something like a service or whatever you're selling, then you can be more intentional about that and craft the hook better and understand marketing and sales and implement uh, the principles of those things into your content. Now, another place is to just these two should honestly belong in Swipe File, but these are both very good posts. Uh, Shout out Bonesaw if you're still here. But there's going to be posts when you're scrolling on social media where you're like, damn, I wish I wrote that. Or that's really speaking my language. Or it like sparks a sense of excitement in you. And this is what I mean by just writing down as many ideas as possible. For this one, it's like, I could have sworn that I've written this before. Your best life is waking up. I didn't write it exactly like this, but I've written it before. It's like something that I really resonate with and has happened before in my life. And I know that I can write something along the same vein because I've done it. I agree with it. I want to associate that idea with my brand, as we were talking about. So the key here is to one, just save this idea somewhere safe or write it down in a completely new way. Open up your notes where you jot down ideas and um, write down the essence of what the idea is, right? Because you can save these exactly as they are, but it helps to write down what the idea is without exactly saying what it is. And then when you go to sit down and write about the idea, the original post kind of gets lost in translation. Because if I were to write down an idea of this, your best life is waking up early, uh, I would write down, you need something to be excited about when you wake up. When I have that in my notes and then I go to write and this reference tweet isn't there, then I'm forced to think about, okay, what do I mean by that? I know it's a true thing, but how can I expand on this more? And it ends up being something I heavily agree with, this tweet, but it's from my own perspective. And that's also what I think is largely brand is your point of view or your perspective that uh, is illustrated through the body of your work. And then for Bones, highly charismatic trait, subtly ensuring people are able to save face when they could have easily been embarrassed and humiliated. I probably wouldn't write about this idea, but I thought it was a really good idea. It's like, yeah, I agree. That's really unique. I haven't seen anyone write about this before. Um, so the reason I saved these is because it's like an added layer of this is an idea that I want to think about more. It's an idea that I think is good and I kind of want to adopt as a part of my mind, if that makes sense. Because I mean, that's why you read. That's why you do all this stuff is you're trying to refine your own way of thinking and the posts or ideas that you write down or save subtly influence that over time. You're not gonna immediately be able to recite something on that, but it's gonna slowly click together with other ideas and form your own perspective on something. Now, when it comes to something like YouTube, it's kind of the same thing, right? YouTube, newsletter, whatever it is, when you're trying to write a newsletter or create a YouTube video, usually when you're starting out, you're imitating and then you're innovating after that. That's someone's quote, imitate, then innovate. Um, because that's how you learn things. You learn through imitation. And maybe I'm wrong, but most of the time when you're doing something new, you're not going to be 100% original. And if you are, then it may or may not work out in your favor because you don't understand the principles yet. You don't understand what works. You don't even have like any guidelines. You don't have anything to go off of unless you really study what does well and then turn it into your own thing. So, this isn't a YouTube tutorial. This isn't even a social media content tutorial. Um, but this will make a bit more sense with what we talk about next. Now, the next thing is just keeping a swipe file. And swipe file is like a marketing term for saving things that inspire you or things that work that you can go to when you need to do something that works. So if you're writing a landing page, then it helps to have a swipe file filled with really good copywriting or really good landing pages, because then you can look through those things and you can kind of, I think the shallow definition of creativity is like recombining things into something new. I think there's a layer above that. I don't know the exact definition, but I think you get what I'm saying. But for the shallow version of creativity, that's kind of what you're doing is you're taking this thing from this person, you're taking this from this person, you're taking this from this person, you're adding your own little flair. Like for a landing page for me, I just do black and white branding, but I could uh, pull from how someone structures a headline. I can pull from how someone structures a lead, and it creates something slightly new, but still a lot better than if you were to do it yourself without knowing anything about copywriting or building landing pages, right? Uh, Now, one thing I highly recommend especially if you're going to be a YouTuber or something of that nature, is not only saving the videos, but screenshotting thumbnails and titles so that you can like start to understand what really uh what really works. And you're doing this for outlier videos mainly. So when you see a video on your timeline that's doing exceptionally well, or you're recommended something that you wouldn't normally be recommended on your home timeline, screenshot it and save it somewhere safe. Uh, if you want, one really cool thing about Eden, this software that I'm building and using right now, is that if you save an image or a video or whatever to uh, Eden, what we do is we transcribe and analyze all of it. So any image you put in like this, we already understand what's inside of the image. So if I had a folder filled with uh, screenshots of thumbnails and titles, then I could just at mention that folder in AI and then be like, hey, I'm working on a video titled this. Help me brainstorm a title for this. And it'll have all of your titles inside of here because they're images, right? And it can pull from that. So that's one good way to do that. Now, little cheeky joke here, but obviously get ideas from your brain. Think more. Go, just reflect on your life. Try to don't get too trapped in all of this. Really try to just become an idea generation machine and turn your life experiences into something valuable that others can benefit from in the form of a post. This one is difficult, especially if you're not in the groove of it. One thing that I did when I started out, especially with social media posts, is I would not go to sleep until I had an idea ready to post the next day. I remember living with 4 other roommates, um, in like this super cheap house, and I would be up in my room with my mattress. All I had in my room was like the typical bro guy setup where I had like a small desk in the corner. I had my mattress on the floor, and that's kind of it. And so I remember laying in the mattress and just it was like 11:30 at night. And I'd be staring at my phone on my screen in Apple Notes, and I'd be like just trying to get an idea out so that I had one to post. And that practice of like struggling to come up with an idea is kind of how you build the idea muscle. So if you want to practice something and try that, that's what I did because I was really trying to make the social media thing work. And I don't know how that came or why I forced myself to always do that, but it really helped and it really worked. Now, on to the last part. So, how do we actually, like, we've understood all of this, we understand the entire content ecosystem, we understand how to generate ideas for all of these things. But now, like, how do we structure things, right? Because this isn't, I wish I could go on for 5 hours here and deliver a whole course as a live stream, but I can't really do that. I can't break down how to create great YouTube videos. I can't go over how to design YouTube thumbnails. I don't even really have the time to go over like how to write a newsletter because there's so many different frameworks and so many different ways of writing that like there is no one right way, right? There's been so many different frameworks that I've tried for my newsletters, and over time I've kind of just now I kind of feel it out. And once I write the newsletter and go back through it, I can kind of see where the sticking points are or where I think needs improvement. And then I'll improve those things. So, what I have here, and this prompt is these two prompts here are arguably like the most valuable prompts, especially this one for content creation in general and learning. And this one for being able to have AI do unique things for you. So for this content breakdown prompt, I pasted the link to this canvas in the chat before. I'll paste it again in a bit just so people can duplicate this habit. But what this does is you give it anything, right? You give it a newsletter, you give it a YouTube video, you give it an Instagram reel, you give it a tweet, you give it anything. And then what it's going to do is it's going to, let's just go through this. Analyze this piece of content from macro to micro like a strategist reverse engineering what makes it work. The macro analysis figures out the content type and like what the format is. So is it a contrarian hot take? Is it a story to lesson, curiosity loop thread, etc.? Then it breaks down the overall structure. So like for a newsletter, for some of my newsletters, it's like, okay, there's the introduction that is based on a personal experience of mine. And then the second section is like a philosophical take or philosophical concept that helps. frame it helps provide like a novel perspective on the topic that we're talking about, which makes it a bit more unique to me. And then at the end, there's like the actionable or practical, what do I actually do? And that's what this part of the prompt does. So for a tweet, it's kind of not really macro, if that makes sense. Like you can't break down a macro structure of a tweet, really, kind of. But this may be able to still give you some good insights on the tweet before it goes into the micro analysis. So examine the structure with sections, key moments, transitions, and turning points. This is especially useful for like a YouTube video or a script or something of that nature. Highlight specific lines or phrases that do heavy lifting and explain why. Now, this one, psychological tactics, this one's very important because if you can't capture attention, then you can't capture attention, right? As superficial as that can sound, it's kind of just life, right? It's like I go to the gym because I want to look good and I want to impress my fiance and stuff like that. Like we're all vain in some way, maybe. I haven't transcended it. But at the same time, there is a deeper layer, right? I love taking care of my body. I love the health aspect of it. I love feeling good. Um, I love also understanding my body, right? Because if I didn't do that thing, then I wouldn't have learned so much about it and I wouldn't have grown as a person in that domain of life. So when it comes to capturing attention and learning how to do it, it's kind of the same thing. It's only as unethical as the person doing it, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of those people, and that's the game and whatever. But if you're going to have to learn how to do it, and if you're a good person or if you have something valuable worth sharing, then that's a great skill to learn because then you get to provide that value to other people. So, what the prompt does is it breaks down why it captures attention. What is it doing psychologically to the reader that makes them want to implement that thing? Right. So, if you're providing something that is arguably beneficial to someone's life, like capturing their attention and persuading them on why they should meditate for 30 minutes every morning, that's not that harmful. If you're capturing their attention and persuading them to uh, drain their bank account and send all their money to you for nothing in return, then yeah, that's don't do that. Then at the end, it gives a little replication guide. So provide principles I can apply to my own ideas, not rigid steps. Frame each principle around why it works. So what you're doing with this is you're practically, if I were to plug a previous newsletter of mine, this is the one that went mega viral on Twitter, and run it through this, it would practically like teach me how that thing is written. It would be like a little mini course on how to do that thing. Right. And that's crazy because with AI and using it like this, you can learn anything very deeply and then you can start to practice it yourself without needing the person who created it to teach you how to do so. So, uh, we may or may not wait for this because I don't know how long this will get, but I'll type it in here. Um, do a content breakdown on the newsletter. We'll let that run, but you can do this for other content as well. So, one that I really liked, and what you can do is if you have channels that you watch or that you think are really good or kind of fit your vibe, um, what you can do is you can create a list of these channels and then you can go to their most popular and you can just start to study what works, right? Because obviously their top performing videos are doing something right. Either they have a really good title and a really good thumbnail. And if you can't really tell why the title or thumbnail is good, it may be something inside the video itself that made it extremely shareable or just extremely valuable. So there are things that you can pull if you're trying to become a YouTuber, create good YouTube videos. You kind of have a way to do that now. right inside of here, I told you about like, okay, if you keep this swipe file of titles and thumbnails, eventually you're going to be able to write a good one on your own. And if you're able to use YouTube videos here, or videos in general, then you can plug this into the content breakdown here, or open a separate AI chat and just at mention both of them. Then you can understand exactly what happened in this video. And so now when you have your own newsletter or your own just topic, if you don't even want to write a newsletter and you just want to get into um, YouTube, that puts you on such a better foot than other people without you having to take a course or do other things. Not that courses are bad, and I don't think they're going away. I think they're extremely valuable, but like you don't need to look for and search for a course on this specific thing when you can just get what you need from AI. The same thing goes for something like an Instagram reel. If you see one that's going mega viral, it would be of benefit to learn why that happened. So plug the Instagram reel into the prompt and you're good to go. Same thing with tweets. You can do this with multiple tweets if you want. I can plug, um, let's say, 4 really good tweets that I like and have it break it down. And then from there, I'll show you what we can do. So now this is good. We have the actual breakdown. So this is a lot to read through. But yeah, maybe I can share this as well because we're probably not going to read the entire thing. But the macro analysis, what content type it is, long form transformational framework / newsletter, so on and so forth, overall structure breakdown, diagnosis, education, intervention arc. So that's like the structure of the newsletter I wrote. It breaks down each section, why this structure works, microanalysis, so on and so forth. Like very comprehensive. So what we can do now, actually, I'm going to add that here. Content breakdown. Is this the right one? That is not. Where is it? Oh, Eden. Well, I'm going to ping my developers after this, but it's there and it's in the chat. So what we can do now is take it a step further. So let's say that I want to actually use the structure of this newsletter that I broke down in helping me create my own. So one thing you can do with AI is just that. And the way we're going to use this meta prompt here is to help turn the structure of this newsletter into a prompt, right? And the reason that's, I'll just go through this. It'll make more sense. So create a new chat, pop that thing in there. And then we're going to say, I want to create a prompt that helps guide me through writing a newsletter, sort of like a coach. See. Um, I want to structure this prompt into phases. Phase 1 is context gathering. Interview me on my target audience. Ask one question at a time. Ask what idea or topic I want to write about that we can use for the topic of my newsletter. Ask for any reference material or ideas that I would want to include in the newsletter. And then phase two, outline. Generate an outline with a potential structure for the newsletter. Ask me for any revisions I would like to make and encourage me to make a lot of them. Ensure that this outline has ideas that I would write. Phase three, generate the draft. Just generate the draft. So something like that. We can run this and you can get as detailed as you want with that. And there are many different ways that you can do this. You don't need this to write the newsletter for you. You can have it be an ideation partner. And rather than actually writing the newsletter, you can have it use the structure of the newsletter that we broke down to for it to like question you and ask, okay, uh, in order for this newsletter to be best, I need an idea about this. I need some form of philosophical concept. What would fit inside this newsletter? So rather than it writing for you, it's kind of like going back and forth to get the right ideas for the newsletter that you can then put into an outline that you can then write yourself. So that is kind of it. And then I think this is like messing up. So I'm going to be on calls later with the devs. But what this would do is it would spit out a prompt and then you can add that prompt or save it somewhere safe. And then whenever you're going to write a newsletter, it worked. We're good. It just didn't stream. So it had everything. Let's look at this. Why did it open that? Excuse technical difficulties and being in beta. Okay, whatever. There's a prompt somewhere in my workspace now, but when you can use the prompt, it helps you generate ideas. It does everything that you said you were going to do. With the template that you can duplicate, you can work through this on your own if you'd like. So that is it. Jesse, any questions before we get into actual questions?
I say we open it up to people who are here with us for now.
Cool. Devs are human too. I'm looking at the chat.
Sorry, Matt and Ari.
I'll tell Matt and Ari you said that. Here, I'll share the link again. Where is it? Oh, it's here.
Yeah, I'll keep my eyes out for questions here.
Yeah. Good thing from Francis there. Opus 4.6 is incredibly expensive. So just be careful. If you're running through stuff in Eden, the plans have credits at cost. Like we don't even take a margin on them. The API for Opus is just extremely expensive. But Sonnet 4.6 is pretty good. There's a lot of good ones. Okay, there's a lot of questions. I think you're going to have to copy paste the link.
Yeah, I think on mobile, people can't even select it to copy it. So that's for the Substack devs. Someone can ping them.
Yeah. Content prompt, content breakdown. I'll figure out a place to provide this stuff. Item not available. Great. Oh, hey, Danny. We were talking yesterday. And this is why we're doing live QA right now.
Is there anything you want to tell people about Eden? We've had some questions of people even asking what app you're using. So maybe you want to say something about the stage that Eden is at?
Yeah, Eden's a workspace / drive with a cool canvas tool that we went over. But Yeah, we're getting close to the end of beta, so there's still issues that we're ironing out before we actually, like, really try to launch it hard. I haven't talked about it that much, as you guys have been able to tell, but yeah, it's fun. If you use it right now, expect minor annoying problems that you're not gonna like, but overall, it's working a lot better on, like, as a whole. You should have seen it a month ago, 2 months ago. So, yeah, feeling good. I feel like it's really shaping up.
Yeah, it's coming
Uh,
along. It's coming along. It's not an easy project with the vision of it, but it's useful, very useful.
yeah. All right, let's find some cues, questions. And as someone said, I'll just share this in an email afterwards. I'll share the links to everything we talked about so you guys can get it there. All right. Got questions about Eden and Cortex.
Someone asked, "How long do you suggest to make your newsletters?" Which, if you're asking Dan Coe, on the longer end.
Yeah. I personally like long. I don't think there's a length, right? Alex Hormozy said something about like if it needs to be long, it needs to be long. If it's short, then it's short. Different topics demand different lengths, but overall, I like to run my mouth when I'm writing. So I write long ones and people seem to like them. So I wouldn't say don't worry about the length, worry about how cohesive the newsletter is and whether it's delivering on the topic that you're talking about. And over time, you'll find a length that you like to uh, go with. I see a question. Is this all you alone, or how many VA or freelancers for content production? This is just me and my editor, Devin, YouTube editor. But everything we went over is exactly how I do it as one person. Well, one person plus YouTube editor. What's your take on LinkedIn for publishing? I think it's good. People always say like they say there's a lot of potential there, and I think there is, but who likes going on LinkedIn? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'll post there just to post there. I feel like there's people with a lot of money there because it's all everyone's in the career mindset when they log into LinkedIn. But if it doesn't fit your vibe, then I don't know. I cross post there, so feel free to cross post there. As Nerdy Dude says, he found me on LinkedIn. Nice.
I have a question for you, Dan,
Yeah.
and this might tie into topics, a couple different topics for people. So with me, my main focus these days in terms of production is my podcast.
Mhm.
And with the podcast, I'm interviewing all kinds of people, like you, for example. And so there's ideas that they're influencing me deeply. Like I'm a student to all these people, right? I'm going and asking questions to learn from them and then drawing from what I learned from them. Sometimes that'll help develop an idea that becomes a newsletter. Uh, what suggestions would you have to like create a system to once there's an episode complete, um, what to pull from
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
There's a few different ways. So the first thing that comes to mind, I don't know if you want to do this. This kind of feels like old school Twitter now, but writing a Twitter thread on either the lessons or just like the really big key point, like the most impactful key point. So what I would do is take the podcast, upload to Eden, and then chat with it about like from this podcast, what are the five most life changing lessons inside of it, right? Or you can listen through and determine which one that you think is the best. From those, you can take just one idea. Like, I feel like a lot of people who do this, they feel like they have to cover the entire podcast. And like it has to, whatever they write, be it a newsletter or a thread or an article about the podcast to promote it, it's like it just feels kind of like a more structured transcript. You know what I mean? When it should be still written like content. That's one thing about uh, people clipping podcasts is in order for that to work really well, you have to like find the perfect clip that has the hook, that has the body, that has the conclusion. And that's very hard to do. What I would do instead, well, I would say smart podcasters who are really doing this ask the questions that set the guest up to kind of speak in a hook. Like when you hear Chris Williamson bring Alex Hormozy on, he's asking a question that he knows Alex is going to respond with just one of his quips that he knows works, and that's going to be perfectly clippable, right? So going back to the podcast, think of it as like you still have to write a good headline. You don't need to mention the podcast at all. You don't need to mention the guest at all. Like the if we did the podcast, a newsletter that you wrote about it could be how maybe the title of this video. If we talked about this topic that we're doing on this live stream right now, the topic of whatever you write could be how to turn one newsletter into a week's worth of content, right? Whether or not that's going to do super well, it's going to do a lot better than like the summary of my podcast with Dan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same with tweets. Like it you need to think of the hook. You need to think of the body, you need to think of the conclusion, like how is it guiding people through? So for repurposing anything, just try to think like how can I speak in a way that just still grabs attention? Just because you're not writing a dedicated tweet or a dedicated newsletter with your own topic and idea doesn't mean that the principles of those things go out the window. Nice.
Awesome.
Did I
That's
get it?
amazing. Yeah, that's killer. That's exciting. Really exciting. I'm gonna
Nice.
plug some stuff into Eden and have fun with that.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I notice that when people are like leveraging authority, borrowing authority is the word for it, where like I'm talking about someone else's idea, I'm giving them credit, but there comes a point where you give them so much credit that it just like waters down everything that you're saying. Like like even in the title, it's like I learned this one lesson from this person. And that's not bad. Sometimes it'll do well. But it's like just tell me what the idea is and then give credit where it's needed. Like make it impactful. Still make it good. You can talk about anyone's ideas, just give them credit, but write it as if you were going to write it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm trying to solve that with a letter I'm writing, a letter that got way too heady, and I'm trying to teach
This
some
happens.
intellectual thing, and it's like, "Come on, Jess." And Talon, next week, he's talking about how to create writing that moves people, and he
Mhm.
gave me some feedback on this, article newsletter. And part of the newsletter, the most exciting part is the story about traveling down to California and Arizona, uh, doing the podcast with you, doing a podcast with Kimmy and Nora, and what I learned from these all these mentors that I got to visit. And so it's been so hard not to just like say what I learned and then
Mhm.
weave the story through it. It's like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
tricky how to present it in a way that's like compelling. So Talon gave me some feedback that was helpful.
nice. Yeah, that'll be good. Again, follow Jesse for updates. He's doing workshops every week for 8 weeks.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, we're running a contest alongside it. So if someone has a general ticket to the Future Proof Creator Summit in June, then they can win a VIP upgrade. If you don't have a ticket and not sure if you can come to Vancouver, you can also win some virtual tickets. And the details of how that contest will run will all be in the Living Internet community. I'll post about it. But just attend 4 of these 8 workshops at least, but attend 8 if you want to transform your whole life in 8 weeks.
there you go. Practicing already.
Yeah.
Uh, cool. I'm still scrolled up a bit. Question from Austin. A new content creator. How much of researching, reading, and consuming do you do when writing a newsletter? What are some great sources slash content creators you like? It really depends. Like sometimes I'm reading or listening to something and an idea comes to mind that just like cascades, and that's all I needed. Other times, what I'll do is I'll like save the videos or the books. And when I'm creating the outline, I'll go back and reference those things. Like before AI was a thing, I'd have to like go find my highlights in the book and read a specific chapter again, or go look at a summary or look up, you look up the idea and pull from that. But now I can just take the video, take the PDF, add it to AI, ask for the specific part that I want, which is so much easier. Like if I listen to a 3-hour YouTube video, there's no way I'm going back through that again just to listen to it. So, um, yeah, that's, uh, you're asking how much time, how much of researching, reading, and consuming do you do? It's usually like it's throughout as I need the ideas as I'm writing. Usually the bulk of it is when I'm creating the outline, and I'll do that for usually one morning or two mornings. And then the quality of the outline dictates the quality of the newsletter. So I'll spend more time on the outline if I need to and just make it super dense and detailed. And then I can just string everything together in actual written form, like a newsletter. Great sources or content creators you like. I feel like many of you already know a lot of my favorite books. Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Um, Creativity and the Evolving Self by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi as well. Very good. Actualize.org on YouTube. Great one. Ken Wilber's books. Uh, I'd have to reference my bookshelf, but those are good starting points.
I would recommend The Art of Focus and also, Purpose and Profit, a collection of
Oh, yeah.
essays. Those are
That
both.
one's free on my Substack.
He doesn't not gonna recommend his own books 'cause, he's,
Well,
he's
I read through them now. Like, I like the books, but I read through them and it's like, I would write this different. I would write this different. Like, once it's out there, it's the same with my newsletters. Like, I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, but like the way I think about things just changes every day and how I would write things changes. So go read them, but know that I would cringe reading them.
That's what's so hard about publishing is you know that
Yeah.
the next day you're gonna read it and think, "Oh, come on. There's all these things that could have been way better." But it's always going to be true.
Yeah. Can you explain the strategic difference between Beehive and Substack? I get this question a lot, and I don't think there's much of a difference. Beehive allows for like automations, but Substack, I don't know if this is dripped out to everyone. Um, I know they gave me access, but they're testing drip campaigns. So Substack will have drip automations at some point too. Uh, so really there's no difference. Just Substack has like a social media front end where you can post short form notes and grow. I think Substack's the way to go personally. And the other thing is like a lot of people, when you're automating emails or writing an email sequence, usually I don't have a ton of data on this, but from people I've talked to in the e-commerce space and even myself, it's like if you just write a weekly newsletter, that does the majority of the job. And like I'm creating a nootropic, a really good nootropic, by the way. And we have a formulator, and he also works as a formulator for another pretty large e-commerce company, and he manages their email sequences. And he was like, yeah, we tested this, and the traditional like e-commerce email sequences compared to me just writing an email when I have something to write that is useful, like that tends to do better because it's timely, it's on point, it's usually a good idea that they care about. The only downside is that you actually have to take the time to write it every few days or every week. Um, so yeah, I just recommend Substack. Um, One about Eden that I think will be important. Does Eden have plans for having local storage for MD files like Obsidian if it gets a desktop app? Kind of, sort of, not really. So the desktop app for Eden has been in development for a good amount of time. We just need to polish things up first and actually get the web app launched. Um, but what we plan to do, since Eden is a drive somewhat, is you know how when you download Dropbox, you can mount the file system to like your Finder or your file system, and you can access all the files through there. And then you can download them or you can sync them with the cloud. We have a similar thing, but when you mount all of your files in Eden to your Finder, they stay online. So what that means is that you don't have to download them in order to use them. So you don't need an external hard drive. You don't need, like, if you have 6 terabytes of footage in Eden, you don't need to download them. You can quite literally drag them from Eden into Premiere or whatever video editing software you use, or an image into Photoshop, and you can edit it from the cloud. And then once you save it, it goes back in the cloud. So what this allows Claude or Claude Code or agents to do is edit from the cloud, so it doesn't have to be local, therefore enabling collaboration between a team. So that's kind of, we're not really going for the local storage route. Um, we've tried to compete with Obsidian in the past with Cortex. Doesn't really work. We hated doing it, so we're taking a different approach, and we'll find our audience. But yes.
Interesting question from Bonesaw here. It's two parts. So he said, what are your thoughts on the importance of aesthetic style, visuals, and form for developing a personal brand? And how would you say those things develop? How much, plus how much deliberate thought did you put into your aesthetic style?
I'd say, how do I put this? Mine kind of has evolved over the years. Like when I first started out, I was a web designer, and there was a very specific way. You know how when you read a creator or if you follow a specific designer, they have a very specific style. When I was a web designer, I had like this very, I would say, like mediocre sense of style. And I applied that to like my banner and my profile picture. My profile picture was like, it had like a teal ring around it. And the banner was like railway font with teal and like gray. And I thought it looked super cool at the time. But then as I looked at it more, like over the months, I'm like, this doesn't really look too good. But there's something here, right? It still like represents me to an extent. So then I, like, when I changed it, I went to more of like a black and white skyscraper feel. And there was like, I still have it as my background on my computer actually. Uh, but it's like a specific image from Unsplash that just like I really liked. And it's like a vertical shot, upward shot of black and white skyscrapers. And then that started to evolve into, okay, we're going more black and white. And I really like this kind of font. And then as I created like preview images for like websites, or when you're promoting something, the thing that shows up on Twitter, the featured image, uh, I tried just like black background, white text because it was simple. And I really liked that. And then started just going more the black and white with like thin text route. And I don't know, that's kind of how it developed over time. In terms of the importance, I don't know if this will directly answer the question, but when I would go to certain people's accounts on Instagram or Twitter, whether they were anonymous or not, I felt this like sense of mystique about them, especially on Twitter, because they don't post many pictures of themselves. They're not very personal, so to say, but they have really good ideas and they give off this like mysterious vibe. And so I kind of wanted to replicate that. That's why I don't or didn't really post much of myself on Instagram or even have talking head videos because I saw it as like a layer, like revealing in layers. So Instagram was mainly just black and white images and animations. Twitter was just text. And then YouTube was the place where I would have my face and I'd talk to the camera. So it's like Instagram and Twitter didn't have that variable in them. So I don't know how that impacted reach and engagement, but I think it helped a decent amount. And then when people go to uh, YouTube, they saw that other side of me. So it like locked in a deeper layer for them of who I am. So I don't know if that answers the question directly. I kind of got lost on a tangent there, but I hope that answers it. That said, I like your brand aesthetics either way. It kind of gives, that's what I kind of mean. It gives me that mysterious feel where it's like, I don't know who you are, but I know your ideas are really good. And that's kind of it. It's like there's a barrier there where it's like I'm always guessing as to, yeah, I don't know. I haven't solidified it yet. All right. Are there any you see? There are a lot.
Yeah, we have a few about motivation and pushing through. Um,
Oh,
it's interesting. I would say writing just starts to open that channel. The more you write, the more you learn about yourself and what motivates you.
for writing itself. Oh, um, I mean, there's always the like bottom layer of I just need to live. And then there's like a layer above that of I want to do something meaningful in order to live. uh, and that's really it. It's like I know the life that waits for me if I don't do this. Not to say that that life is always bad and that you like I couldn't find um comfort or meaning or happiness in it. Uh I'd just much rather live this life, right? I've talked about the vision versus anti-vision a lot in my content, in my book, so on and so forth, but just knowing that if I don't do this, what the other option is, like that scares the shit out of me. And I don't want to do that. So that's like a negative energy that drives me. But at the same time, as I'm doing this, I get a lot of fulfillment out of it. So it's like those two things kind of compound on each other, where it's like I have the direction due to the negative thing, points me in a positive direction. And then by going the positive direction, that's reinforced uh, by all of the things that come from that, right? In terms of when you write something, you really get into the flow. It's like that's not possible in too many other lines of work, especially if they don't align with you. It can be possible in many lines of work, but like being able to do that on the ideas you choose to write about, all of that stuff, that's a lot of where the motivation comes from. Some of it's negative, some of it's positive. And there's definitely times where, like, this past month, I haven't been writing on Substack, and that's been bugging me a lot because it's like, is my engagement going to die out? Is everyone going to just like disappear and not read my stuff again? How long can I not write for? Is my brain going to decay? Am I going to be able to write the same? Like even now, I can't even think of ideas because I'm so like stuck in a different kind of work, right? That doesn't favor the idea generation. So yeah, I mean, it has its highs and lows, but it's a good experience. Did you see any others? I'm looking as well. Any software you use, Dan, for cross posting and engagement? Not really. I use Typefully just to schedule posts. Um, I know some on Twitter. I know some people have like something about writing scheduled posts, or like if you have an idea, just like fire from the hip on Twitter, and they're like, if you schedule content, it like rips some of the, I guess, soul from them. But then why don't you just fire from the hip into a scheduler, and then they go out on a more consistent basis? Like that's what I used to do, is like when I have an idea I want to fire from the hip, I just load it into the scheduler and then they go out over the course of a week rather than immediately. So, but overall, that's kind of it. When I post to Instagram, LinkedIn, anything that isn't Twitter, it's manual.
Maybe we can slightly expand that topic on like what's your strategy for actually scheduling your time in terms of when are you writing, when are you researching, when are you posting, and do you post across do you do like a work session that involves posting across platforms? How do you set that up?
Yeah, I mean, it usually involves kind of as we talked about closer to the beginning of, usually the first thing I do when I wake up, if I'm on track, right? If something else takes priority, like this is my first time being a fancy startup founder or all of that stuff, but it's a different kind of work. And sometimes there's absolutely things that kick me out of my flow and I have to prioritize in the morning. But on an ideal day, the first hour of my morning would be writing, researching the newsletter. The second hour would be getting posts out and just that, like making sure something is posted on each platform. Sometimes that second hour doesn't happen every day. So I'll only post to other platforms like 3 to 5 times a week. But ideally, it would be every day. And what's the other thing there? If I don't do that thing in the morning, the reason I do it first thing in the morning is because if I don't, I either tend to forget or it just doesn't happen. So for me personally, I know that I just have to get those things done before I do anything else. Blotato app. That's a good, I like the name. An app designed for cross-platform publishing. There's a need for that. How do you make your social media how do you make your social media consumption intentful? I feel like it's too easy to get lost in the slop algorithm. Get all the insights and great ideas / inspiration float in this current creator economy. Yeah, it's extremely easy to get caught in it. Substack tends to be like higher signal. Twitter isn't the Twitter I know anymore. It's definitely a lot of hype, a lot of AI, a lot of product launches. That's my algorithm. So some of it's helpful because I need to save those to see what does well when it comes time to market my own. Um, but in terms of like curating your own algorithm, I'm sure you can do that just by liking certain things, not spending time reading certain things, so on and so forth. But if I were to recommend something, it would just be curating people or accounts or lists on Twitter. I think Naval does that. He doesn't even follow anyone. He just adds people to lists on Twitter and then goes through the lists when he wants to look at stuff. So whenever you find a creator that you would consider high quality and not slop, add them to a list, either on Twitter or just copy paste them into a note and maybe block off 15 to 30 minutes a day to just go through each of their accounts every day and get the ideas, see who they retweet, see who they share, uh, slowly add and refine over time. But that's the thing is, I guess if you want it to be intentful, like you have to be very intentional about who you're curating because the algorithm will always devolve into slop. Will this live be recorded? I think. I don't know how Substack works. So if something's posted after this, then yeah. But We'll see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll email you a recording and we can
Okay.
talk about where to put it. Um,
From Paul. Do you have a system for rotating through and choosing newsletter topics, or do you just write about something you captured the previous week? That one's I don't have a system. Sometimes sometimes the ideas just come. Like if I write about one thing and I really enjoyed writing about that, like the human 3.0 thing I did. Um, there's so many like branch off articles that I can write about that. So I'll take that and just like think of a bunch of different topics that I can write that relate to that thing. And if I don't have that, or like the topic can't branch off into more, then I'll either go through my previous top content and like do a spin off of that, or I'll go through my tweets and see which one did really well and that I want to write about. Or typically, I have a list of topics that I can choose from. So as I'm listening to a YouTube video or reading a book or reflecting, however you come up with ideas, uh, I just jot down what could be a newsletter topic, because there are definitely ideas that you can write down that you know can turn into like short form content, but then there's others that are like a lot more big picture that you know are going to be newsletter topics. So I tend to have like a note for my short form ideas, and then just a note for new potential newsletter topics. For Dan, do you still expand on your ideas with big idea, problems, benefits, goals, concepts, process, and Eden? Not really anymore, because that like I do that in my newsletters, right? That's kind of like the entire purpose of like the core notes system that we taught in Cortex is just that. It's like to show you that you can take one idea and turn it into something longer form. So for me, I did that practice for a good amount of time before I was writing. I did it in Rome research. And now it's like that's kind of just how I like go through writing. So it's rather than like taking note or taking notes for like my own private collection, it's all public in the form of newsletters and tweets. How do you go about using AI to brainstorm ideas or research new concepts? I don't really use it to research new concepts. In terms of brainstorming ideas, right now at least, it's mostly stress testing ideas. So when I'm writing a newsletter or a tweet, if I write something that I don't think is very strong, or maybe making a jump, or may not be true, then I'll toss it into AI and just be like, hey, help me stress test this idea. I'm writing about this, this, and this. I'll just give it context. And then I'll say, like, challenge me on this. And then it'll challenge me and tell me why I'm wrong. And then I'll tend to be like, you're missing this, but we're on the right track. And then it'll be like, oh, no, actually, there's a hole in that too. And then I'll get to a point where I have a much more refined idea that I feel a lot more confident in. And it helps me think about that idea in a much better way. So it's very beneficial. Um, Brainstorming, I haven't had like great success brainstorming with AI, at least like in the simple form where it's like, hey, generate a bunch of ideas on this, this, and this. That hasn't really stuck out to me. I feel like I really benefit from the like discovery process of like I'm reading through a book, and out of the entire book, this one idea stuck out to me. That's a great idea. And that can happen with AI. So the way that I would use AI in this case is like having it summarize a video that I've watched through before. And then I read through that summary, and one idea sticks out from that. Or I have it pull from a chapter of a book and be like, hey, I know this book talked about this topic. What are some of the best ideas from this book around that? And then that's a way I can discover ideas. But having AI like generate them for me, maybe I haven't tried it enough, but it's not really in my workflow at the moment. All right, it is 1:33. Let's find two more good ones. Oh wow, there was a lot.
There's a couple of questions that have to do with niching down versus changing direction, trying lots of different topics and seeing what sticks. Um, like, how should one change the direction of their content when their interests change over time?
I uh I wouldn't say you have to change the direction of your content. You just have to like every every time I try to like articulate this, it's hard to. So hopefully I can. But if I wanted to write about basket weaving as a skill, and I just found that super interesting, but my audience is where it was now, then I'd find a way to bake that in right now and like gauge whether or not I should continue writing about that. So if I have a story about basket weaving myself and some kind of lesson from it, then I can weave that into a newsletter that has a topic that my audience would resonate with. So it's like something inside the newsletter, but not the main topic. If I wanted to just really talk about basket weaving as a topic for some reason, then I would find a way to package that in a very interesting way, right? It's the entire, like, the success of a YouTube video is 80% packaging and 20% what's inside, even though they both matter. Like the packaging, what gets people to click is going to determine the number of views, but the impact is going to be determined by like the watch time inside. So, what I would recommend is really studying YouTube packaging, headlines, marketing in general, and learning how to make your interests interesting to other people because the entire creative challenge here is that there is something you can write about basket weaving that your audience and an even broader audience will find interesting, right? I feel like a big trap that creators fall into is they think, I have this topic or idea that I want to write about. I need to put it in front of people who already like that idea, right? That's like the biggest no no, in my opinion. Instead, it's like, okay, I want to write about basket weaving. How can I introduce other people to basket weaving and how it can impact their life? And then it doesn't matter like what small niche basket weaving subgroup I go into. I kind of become like a missionary for basket weaving. You know what I mean? So same with me is like not everyone goes on a walk. Not everyone likes to go on walks. But when I write a tweet about walking, I do so in a way that illustrates the importance of why I like going on a walk. I really highlight the why. And then other people, they're like, that's a good point. Maybe I should go on a walk. And then they go on a walk, and some of them, not all of them, see a benefit. And now they think, that was really good. Thanks, Dan. And now I'm the person they register. Like I'm the one that caused the behavior change. And I get somewhat of this, like, not financial currency, but I like get the attention currency. You know what I mean? James Clear introduced millions of people to why good habits are good habits. You'd think that that's obvious, but it wasn't until like that's just not on people's minds until they learn about it and give attention to it. So yeah, Ron, I started walking mostly because of your suggestions. It's the same thing. It's like people, not everyone has to, no, you don't have to find the people that are interested in your ideas. You have to make people interested in your ideas because when you're posting on social media, like unless you join a community or you run targeted Facebook ads, like the odds of you immediately getting in front of the small group of people who is going to like your niche interests, you're not really going to hit them, right? You have to just be like, here's my interests. I'm going into this sea of people who don't like my interests. What can I say that will get them on my side and make them realize, like, you guys are all wrong. Basket weaving is incredible. Here's why. And some people will get on your side. And those are who the followers are.
Yeah, as a woodworker, I love the example.
Yeah, no offense to any weavers. Yep, we got Kurt on the walking grind too. It is Lindy and Nietzsche. All right. I think we're good. We're a bit over. I hope this is recorded.
Yeah,
I'll find a way. I'll paste the link one more time to the template just so you guys can copy paste it really quick.
yeah, I've got the
Uh,
link as well if anyone
okay.
needs. But,
Yeah, follow Jesse and he'll hand that out.
yeah, thank
Copy.
you, Dan. Everyone, thanks, Dan. This was super insightful and distillation of a lot of thinking, a lot of experimenting that this man has done. So that was helpful, man. And your advice to me over a year ago to uh, inject yourself into a tribe.
Mhm.
That's what I'd also like to pass on to everyone. Like, if you find two or three others who you actually get along with, uh, find those high leverage GMs that are, going to become real connections, and you'll stay in the game, right? Like, just stay in the game long enough, and you'll figure it out. But you need the endurance. So,
Yeah, find I know the chat is going to close soon, but find people that you may resonate with in the chat. I don't know. Look in the comments on Substack. Uh, find people that you vibe with, because it's kind of hard to find them in real life nowadays. Like, it's hard to. I don't want to sound cliche about being a 29-year-old dude, but it's hard to find friends nowadays. Like you can go to the gym and there's a lot of like-minded people, and I'll have good conversations and I'll make a quote unquote friend, but it's not really someone I would hang out with on a daily basis. It's not like, I don't know, like there's a lot of cool people online that have similar interests. And if you find them, get them in a group chat, text them, just say what's up. You'd be surprised how many cool people there are. And
and we'll
that
probably see a
changes
bunch of you
everything.
in Vancouver or virtually when we do this event, the Future Proof Creator Summit. So, some of you joined in halfway through this call, but if you go to thelivinginternet.com, Dan's going to speak there. I'm going to speak there, where all of our knees are going to be shaking because public speaking is scary. But I think there'll be a synergy of a lot of incredible ideas and people who are thinking differently. So that's going to be
Yes.
exciting.
Yes. Living Internet, thelivinginternet.com. Code transform 10% off if you want to fly to Vancouver. Come say hi, listen to us speak, and then virtual event. If you can't make it to Vancouver, I'd recommend taking some time to think about it if you want, because it is a big decision to fly across the country if you're not in Vancouver. But virtual event is there if you want. Jesse will be sending out updates about that. I'll probably send an update um, closer to when it's about to happen, but you need to get plane tickets if you're coming. So
And
keep
book
an
your
eye out for
hotel
that.
by May 1st for a better deal on hotel rooms.
Yeah. But cool. Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming. It was very fun. First time Substack Live. Hopefully we'll do more. If we do, you'll get the email. So cool. Thanks
Thanks,
guys for
everybody.
coming. See you later, Jesse. Thank you for organizing. Is
Yeah,
that
no
right word?
problem.
Yeah.
Thanks
Cool.
for showing up, man. Means a lot. All
Yep.
right.
Of course. All
Later.
right. See you guys. Enjoy your day. How do I end? Okay. Bye.
Delete.